now for the Drew Sutton Leadership Show, lighting the way with real leaders, real stories, and real impacts. Because when leaders stop growing, the darkness wins. All right, welcome to another amazing episode of the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. Today, we're going to be answering the question, what is the silent killer of small business growth? Because for most founders, they think it's sales or marketing or maybe even hiring. But what if the real thing holding your business back is something you don't even see? To answer that question, meet Carrie Downey, digital productivity consultant and founder of Clarity Co. She spent over a decade helping businesses eliminate chaos and reclaim their time through smarter, automated workflows. She's on a mission to replace fragmented tools with streamlined operating systems so teams can stop spinning their wheels and start scaling with clarity. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Carrie.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hey, so I'm super excited to have you on the show. I don't know if you're on the board, but you are basically on the board of this thing called the Tech Association of the Bluegrass. So we're on the board with that, and I've gotten a front row seat to watch you implement Monday.com and just your wisdom into the team. And I was like, man, I have to have Carrie on the show because she understands what most people don't, and that is how to systematize a business. It's been so much fun to have you kind of hold our hands as we set up all of the systems that we take for granted when we go to our big office jobs.
Yeah, it's great. I love being a member of TAB and participating in that process of helping TAB run more efficiently. It's my passion area. It's what I do every day in and out to help businesses thrive. And so I love giving back to TAB in that way. So
Yeah, it's super. We're so blessed to have you. All right, so let's talk about Carrie for a second. You were a 5-year-old girl and you told your kindergarten teacher, I want to help people implement digital systems so they can systematize their businesses. When did you know, hey, this is what I want to do with life?
This is my second career, actually. So I have degrees in master's in social work and a master's in public administration. So my first career was as a clinical social worker. And so I did that for about 10 years. And it wasn't until about 11 years ago that I decided to do a pivot with my career. And that's when I started helping folks with their processes and their systems. And throughout the 11-year journey that I've been on now with Clarity Company, I actually dove head in on technology during COVID. And so it's been 6 years now that I've been all in with helping folks specifically with their technology. Prior to that, I was helping with all kinds of systems, from inventory systems, paper management systems, communication systems, and teams. And what I was finding is that the technology was there was a growing need for it, number one. And number two, a lot of folks just weren't comfortable making decisions in which technology to use, how to set it up, how to launch it with their team. And I just felt like that was an area where I could support them because it's always just come kind of naturally to me with technology. I kind of refer to it as my superpower, that I can get into a technology and just learn it rather quickly. But then because I was a therapist for 10 years, I can really relate to the people using the technology. I can understand the mental barriers that kind of prevent people from feeling comfortable using technology. And so I guess I've been able to transfer my therapy skills into teaching people how to use technology more effectively. So
I'm going to be honest. I didn't know that you had that background with mental health, but I can definitely, I can see it as you've helped us implement the process. Like there's a group of people we're at the table and we're kind of smashing heads. Like, I need to do this. I need to do this. Which one do we do first? I think this is the most important. And you're just like calmly bringing in, you're like, well, those are all great ideas. I think we were talking about this. So now I'm imagining you with like a clipboard and like a couch coaching people through this. This is fantastic. That's so fun.
Thanks.
That's true though. Business is a people problem. It's a systems problem for sure, but it's also a people problem. And so that makes a lot of sense that you bring that to the table.
Well, my focus as a therapist was to help people find mental clarity, right? And my focus now is to also help them find clarity, but clarity in their day to day work. So, what they're trying to accomplish each day so that they can feel successful in their work, so that businesses can thrive. I take the motto that I want folks to be able to be set up for success in their work. And so, if we're launching a new software solution, there's no point in investing money into a software if you are not supporting your people to use it effectively. So,
Oh yeah. My one of my favorite pieces of advice from a boss was you have to teach them how to put their time in on Friday, the first Friday they show up, and every Friday thereafter. It is
mhm.
it's a challenge to make sure that people are using the tools that they're given.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times at work, I as the boss have the big picture. I'm like, oh, we're going to do this. It's going to be an automated email system, and then we're going to track these things this way, and your checklists are going to go in here. And to me, that makes a lot of sense because I'm trying to knock out these these KVPs. But the team doesn't really care. They're like, I just use my email. The best way it works for me. It's pretty easy. I'm used to it. No thinking involved. Have you seen a similar sort of thing in companies, and how do you help them overcome that?
Well, certainly I see folks that are kind of stuck in their ways, right? So we've got a subset of people who are really focused on doing it the way they've always done it. We've got some people who are willing and open to change. And then we've got the folks that are kind of leading the charge who definitely want to see technology support their efforts better, but haven't necessarily factored in all the necessary things that go into setting up a technology system. And so they're rushing and they have a sense of urgency that they want to get it implemented. And so I can see where everyone's coming from in that scenario. And my job is to make sure I'm bringing everybody together and we're moving ahead at a pace that is really good for the business without distracting too much from the day-to-day operations that need to happen while we're implementing, right? So,
Yeah, I actually joke that for most companies, you actually pay your employees to put their time in on time. And people say, "What? No, I pay them to fill out the form, to do the engineering, to do the work." I'm like, "Yes, but do you ever have a disciplinary conversation when they don't follow the systems?" They're like, "No." It's like, "Do you ever have a disciplinary conversation when they don't put their time in correctly?" They're like,
mhm,
"Oh, like so you've taught the employees, you've taught the team that what you really care about is getting your time in on time."
mhm,
But the truth is we should be focused on the work that we're supposed to do. That doing the work and serving the customer should be the primary thing that we're all focused on.
right.
And then we just get caught in this friction that's
Mhm,
all around that work.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
tell me about some of your clients, maybe pick out a client in particular where the team all of a sudden said, "Oh, Monday.com is my friend. Monday.com is my ticket to success instead of this extra thing that the boss is making me do."
Yeah. Well, there was a team who was small when we first started and is now much larger. And the cool part about this is that when I first got asked to come in and help this team, there was a lot of dependence on the owner, right? Everybody was asking
Mm,
questions. They couldn't perform their work without getting approval or more information to be able to proceed. There was just so many bottlenecks. And at first, the boss was like, "We need to do something about this because it's really holding me back," right? And then
right.
the team was kind of like, "Okay, fine, but we still need to have access to you. Like, we still need to ask questions." So, what we were trying to accomplish was creating a system that allowed for that to happen, but not with them standing at the door, right? And waiting for her time. And so they had some variety of systems they were using. Some folks like to put things in their, Outlook to-do
Oh,
list, and other
I love this.
folks
I love
liked
this.
their notepad that they would refer to every day with writing down what they had to do. And quite honestly, they just didn't have a communal system where everybody could access. Everyone was segmented and siloed, which is pretty common with the clients we serve. And so when we got started, the idea of bringing all the work together in a communal workspace, as I refer to it as, was, a little foreign to them, but they were open to it. So we went ahead and started building a system where they could track all of their work. So they were a financial firm, so they had a lot of payment processing to do, bookkeeping services, payroll services, all of these different types of tax services. So, we had to bring it all into one space so that everyone could see it. And when there was an issue with a particular thing that couldn't proceed, then the owner could be flagged and assigned a task to be brought in, but it would be on her time when she would be brought in instead of them interrupting meetings or standing at her door to request that information. So, yeah, I don't know
Yes.
if it answers your question, but
No, 100%. And I can tell you that I personally saw this. I grew a team from 2 people to 42 people in 2
yeah,
years. It's a lot of hiring, it's a lot of
yeah,
training.
yes,
Um, and it was really euphoric being the boss of about 5 people. Like,
mm,
you feel like you're super powerful. You're like, "Oh, I know what everybody's supposed to be doing, and it's really
mhm,
complicated, and it's fun, and I'm the only person that knows what's going on." But you get to 10 people, and
mhm,
all of a sudden 10 people are sitting outside your door. You
mhm,
get to 20 people, and now there's a queue.
mhm,
And you don't even start your work until your kids have already had breakfast, or I mean, already had dinner at home, right? You're
yeah,
missing soccer practice.
mhm,
It comes down for vacation, and you're bringing your laptop, and you're at your laptop while everybody else is hanging out at the hotel. And it's all because, and this is what I tell them. Everybody wants to tell their boss where to stick it, right?
mhm,
And so I always had that. I think you called it the common workspace.
mhm,
And I was like, "Hey, before you finish that, tell me where to stick it." So they would give me the paperwork to review and to fill out, and then I always gave my team a chance to tell me where to stick it, and they seemed to like that pretty well.
I love that. Love it.
Um, so you brought up email, and this is a long held frustration of mine. I think you measure a boss by the number of unread emails they have in their inbox, and I don't mean what most people mean. Most people think I need to get my inbox to 0. I remember I've always had a bunch of peers, and they always prided themselves on who had the lowest number of unread emails in their inbox.
Yeah.
I think a really good boss has the most unread emails in their inbox because their team is knocking out the work, and that email is just a receipt that said the work was done.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? And how do you have Monday.com or ClarityCo? How do
Mhm.
you move people off of their email and into a more productive system?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, people are just increasingly more annoyed by email, right? As the
Mm,
years go on, people are overwhelmed by emails. And
that's
so
true.
biggest culprit is having to like sort through it and figure out what you actually need to pull out of there that's useful. And so it's being misused, in my opinion. I feel like folks are kind of defaulting to it as a way to dictate their day, number one, because they feel
Mhm.
captive, right? Or they feel a sense of dependency on their inbox in terms of direction, right? What am I supposed to do today? Oh, let me check my email. So that's a big issue. And then in terms of like the read or unread, I feel like there could be a whole lot less emails altogether if they were.
That's a true statement. That is 100% a true statement.
Yes. If there was a spot in their communal workspace, as I like to refer to it, where they can just look at the status of something instead of having to be emailed about where things
Oh
stand.
my goodness, yes.
And where work is set up in a systematic way so they don't have to receive special instructions every single time there's a new task, right? So yeah, I'm not a big fan of email dependency. I think there is a place for email. I do, but it's
Right.
really not in terms of like task assignment and task progress and all of that. It's just to inform people or to preserve information. But aside from that, it can all be done in a workspace like Monday.com.
Oh, 100%. I actually, again, as from a boss perspective, if you don't feel worthless twice a day, this is what I tell everybody I work with. You got to feel worthless twice a day, otherwise you're not a good boss. And people are like, "What? what do you mean? I'm the most important person here. Like, well, kind of. But what I'm saying is if you have really good standard operating procedures and you have really good process control and you have really good statuses and you have people that are putting their work not in your inbox, they're not like emailing you that Excel sheet for you to check or the Word doc to check. It's checked in to the folder and it's waiting for your signature. And then you're going to take it from that folder and move it over. If you can just, what you just said, if you can glance at the work that's flowing through your plant, and
Mm-hmm.
I say that on purpose. I think a lot of us are white collar workers. We deal with paperwork and we deal with technical documents.
Yeah.
Um, that if you start seeing it as a factory, my job is to get the
Yeah.
customer requirements and then make them a Camry by the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
You should just be able to glance at it.
Yeah.
And so that system, that statusing system, see what tasks are assigned to who, all of a sudden you as a boss,
Yeah.
2 or 3 times a day, you got
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do. And that means you're doing a really good job
Yeah.
because your team is taking care of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
What, what are some signs that people have that they probably should give you a call? That is to say, they got maybe 80, 100 customers. They have good cash flow. They have good people. But there's kind of fires. What are some of the symptoms that you should be like, if I have this symptom,
Mm-hmm.
probably systemizing my company is the right thing to do?
Yeah. I would say the first thing that's obvious to most folks is when their technology is disjointed. So,
Hmm.
what I mean by that is that so many companies will invest in a technology software to solve this problem, and another one to solve this problem, and another
Oh,
one
that's
to
good.
solve this problem. And before you know it, you've got this whole tech stack that is bloated, right? Because there's often overlapping capacities with those software, but they don't realize it. And the other problem with that is that their employees have to jump from one software to another software to another software
Hmm.
in order to
Hmm.
accomplish their work, right? And I'm always baffled. Like I got a call from this company that is, 1,200 employees, and they just have the ability to adopt software within each unit or department, however they wish to do so, right? So one department was using Monday.com, but another department is using Asana, right? Well,
Hmm.
there's no need for the two softwares, right? When Monday.com could do everything that Asana is doing for that other department.
Hmm.
And so instead of buying the software on an individual basis, they could be buying it at a larger scale with a discounted price and having more features if they were to plan accordingly for an enterprise level account for the whole company, right? So
Yeah.
I even see that sometimes like with CRMs because, Monday.com has a CRM product and a lot of folks, will purchase Salesforce and not realize that Monday.com could be meeting their CRM needs if in addition to their project management needs and their service ticketing needs, right? Because Monday.com has a lot of great products within their ecosystem that you could have your team really get a lot of their needs met within the Monday.com ecosystem without even having to jump over to another tool.
I totally agree. I will say, as you're saying this, because I've led teams and I'm feeling a little bit exhausted. I'm like, well, I don't want all of my stuff into that box. That sounds like a lot of effort. Is that the reason to hire somebody like you? So, what is the best way to choose a product like Monday and then to sit down? How long should it take for me to really integrate my systems into Monday.com?
Yeah, I mean, well, uh, yes, the answer is that we consult with companies to help them decide A, whether Monday.com is a good fit for them. And if so, what of the products would be the best fit? So that's step number one. Step number two is when we have to launch into implementing it with the team. And although it comes as a great product, there's still a lot of customization that needs for most companies to like get it just right for how they want to use it. And that's the beauty of Monday.com, in my opinion, is that it can truly be crafted to just exactly how you want it to be instead of you having to fit into the software. But the implementation varies depending on how many workflows and how many processes that the company needs. But I like to generally tell folks that you should plan for a 3-month implementation process, because we've got to do some discovery and understanding your workflows. Then we have to design some workflows to be implemented, then implement it, and then of course launch it. And the launch is a really important piece to all of it. So it has to be planned accordingly to make sure the team has the basics so that they can understand how Monday.com operates, and then some specific training for their roles and how they're using Monday.com. So,
Yeah, no, I love that. So a quarter or 3 months, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Actually, I come in and I help companies revamp their culture, and I tell them it really only takes 90 days to revamp your culture. Now, the hidden subtext of that statement is I come in with systems. Monday.com is a great system, by the way. I'm always raving about Monday. And I help them implement those systems, because culture is a kind of a combination of the habits that people have. You got to tell them where to stick it, right? Where do I store stuff? What are the systems that manage it? Every time I'm into a meeting, what status sheet am I pulling up? So what tool am I using to consistently get my work done and to track it and to tell the boss that it's done and to deliver it to the customer? Yeah, I think 90 days feels about right. I often tease people that big brands like McKinsey or Deloitte, they tell you it takes 24 months to change a culture. And the scientific reason behind that, the studies show that that's because Deloitte and McKinsey like to get paid for 24 to 36 months in a row. But you can actually make a change much faster than that.
You can, and what happens often for our clients is that we'll implement something really great to solve some bottlenecks in their company, and then they see what's possible and they're like, what? This is amazing. Now let's implement this and let's incorporate this into our Monday.com account, because at the beginning, folks don't always know what's possible. And so once they start to see that, it becomes kind of a snowball effect. So we may be called in to help their sales team set up the CRM, but once the other departments start to see what's happening and how that information can flow to the production team, and then the marketing team wants to see how they could get in on the action, and the HR team wants to see how they could be utilizing Monday.com. So when I say 3 months, that's for, an entire, section of the workflow, but it could, be something that they are continually wanting to utilize for their company. So.
No, 100%. When I started working, when I was at Lockheed and I kind of started my team and they finally gave me the reins, we were in reactive mode constantly. So every other week, I would find out how far behind we were on the work that we were supposed to have been done with, right? And then it was my job to go to the customer and with a straight face, explain to them why it was a legitimate reason that we were behind schedule. And so I started implementing status systems. We didn't have Monday.com. This is early 15s, like 2015. So we didn't have Monday.com at the time. But we kind of invented a very bad version of Monday.com. It had tags for the different things, and we mapped out all of our processes. It took us about a year, which is not what it would take with somebody like you on coming in. And eventually, I got to a spot where I knew exactly when drawings were being done 6 months out, and nobody believed me. That was the hardest part. Is I would tell them, if we do that, then this is the consequence, and nobody believed me. Because they're like, you can't possibly understand your system that way. No, it's actually pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And that's giving some flex for different things. It wasn't like an overestimation or underestimation. Within 2%, I could tell you exactly where we were every day of the week. And Monday.com can literally deliver that sort of fidelity. And then once people see that, they're like, I can predict the future. You're like, yes, you can take a vacation. I can tell you when you'll be able to take a vacation.
Well, I mean, the Gantt view alone on a project or a whole list of projects can be really helpful, because one item shifts in a timeline and the dependency column allows for all the remaining things to shift. with such ease. It's a beautiful thing. And then the other feature within Monday.com that really helps business owners is the work capacity feature. And so if set up properly, you can start to see what all of your team members have on their plate so that you can distribute work more effectively. Yeah. And
No, this
all
is
of
exact. Like I said, we kind of backed our way into this, and it took me. I personally at night would code this solution, not Mondays, like my very bad version of it. But once I got it running every day in our daily stand up, which by the way was a true 15-minute stand up for 20 people, um, I would hit go and I would just pull up a web page and I could see literally every drawing that was assigned to every one of my team members. So I knew what they were doing for the next 3 weeks, basically. And I could tell how much they had made, how much progress they had made last week, even yesterday. And then immediately we can have that dialogue.
Yeah.
And that sort of fidelity was literally taking a full person before that. Like I had one person and their only job in life was to walk around and ask everybody, where are you at? Where are you at? Why are you behind? Where are you at? Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's what a lot of leaders end up doing is they just walk around the building statusing things and they call and they're like, oh, I'm a good manager. I'm doing walk-bys. But nah, you can still do walk-bys and be like, hey, what are you into this weekend? How was that fishing trip you're planning? How was, you can still do walk-bys, but you can be useful instead of statusing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've talked a lot about the use of statuses inside Monday.com to communicate things to the entire team. But one of the things we haven't really touched on is the fact that there's so much that could be automated, not only for internal operations. So when one phase of the work is marked done, it can automatically be pushed over to the next person that needs to touch it, and then the next person. So that workflow can be planned out and set up in the system. It just takes the person who's responsible off and puts the other person in the to-do or, responsible column. It sets a new due date. It just keeps the work flowing. But in addition to the internal operations, I really think people could be utilizing the automations more for their customer, satisfaction, right? Customer journey, I guess, would be a better way to put it, right? So, for example, when you submit your information to get processed by a CPA, right? You can have confirmation that it's been received. You can have an automation that lets you know when it's starting to be processed. You can be informed when there's more information needed, right? You can be informed when it's been completed. You can be informed when your payment is due and when your taxes are going to be filed, right? All of these steps can be pre-planned and automated. And I hear often business owners will shy away from automation because their claim is that their work is too unique per customer to automate it, right? And I hear it all the time, really, truly. Like we couldn't automate that because we treat every customer special and different. I don't know how useful that is for productivity when you're constantly pivoting and shifting, right? But a medium or a middle ground where I can get them to come to at least is let's put it in buckets, right? So you have this bucket where you're responding at this time frame, and this bucket where you're engaging the customer with this. Now, what you send them may be unique and different each time in each of the buckets, or the way you're reacting to them might be different and unique. But ultimately, there are buckets of production, right? And so at least getting to a general state of phases of a workflow is really, really important for productivity. If you can refine it down even more and get it to be specific so that each customer is having the same customer journey, then you're getting that consistency and the reputation, and also your employees know what is expected of them. There's just a higher standard of work, right? It is a process that takes to build out those systems, but once you eventually lock in, a lot of companies start to hit their stride then, instead of being very unique with each encounter. So
100%. One of the biggest mindset shifts that I think especially people that do a service. So engineering is really just a service. It's a technical service, but it's a service, right? There's HVAC, there's plumbing, there's house building.
Mhm.
Anytime you're doing something that has a large degree of variability to it,
Mhm.
if the expert is able to move that variability into some sort of buckets, gated reviews or cycles or stamp. Otherwise, you're walking around all of the time terrified that you forgot something.
Right.
And
Yeah.
if you're not walking around terrified that you forgot something, you probably forgot something and you just don't care. And that's a different conversation, right? But if you really care about your customer and you're winging it every time,
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many engineers are smart people. And the problem is that most engineers are the smartest people they've ever met,
Mhm.
which is statistically improbable. But um, they will tell me, I don't want a checklist because I'm a professional. That's what they'll say. I don't want a checklist because I'm a professional. So in our team, we got rid of the checklist and we put it into a OneNote document, which is like a notebook. And I just asked them questions. So instead of, did you check the stress on the part? I said, what is the stress on the part?
Mhm.
And they were more than happy to answer the questions. And then I could just track how many questions they'd answered. Hint,
Mhm.
it's a checklist. And the way I started getting people to change their mindset was I said, do you want to go into the operating table with your doctor that has a checklist or with the doctor that's just a professional who's just winging it, right?
Mhm.
I had my
Mhm.
appendix out, I don't know, 8 years ago, it feels like. And so as I was being wheeled in, kind of an emergency surgery, they got a big X on my appendix. The surgeon comes through and he has a checklist and he's like, we're doing an appendectomy, right? And I said, no, it's a knee replacement. And he like snapped at me and the nurse snapped at me and my wife slapped me, which was appropriate. I should have been slapped. Right. But you don't want to do an appendectomy when it's a knee surgery. And that's what a checklist is for. And then Monday.com lets
Mhm.
you put those questions or the checklist or the gates or whatever on a
Mhm.
map.
Mhm.
I tell everybody your battle map is your calendar, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
I know you're a professional, but I need you to be working on this project at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm absolutely in love. If you can make the shift from I I'm a professional, so I don't need a checklist, to I use a checklist or process because I'm a professional, then
Mhm.
all of a sudden you start falling in love with somebody like Monday.com.
Right. And I think there's also the misnomer that if you automate things, it's not personalized, right? And that the customer is
Right.
getting a personalized experience. And I would beg to differ because I feel like you can put personalized touches into everything that you set up for
Mhm.
automations. And if you are automating and have a consistent service delivery, your customer is going to walk away feeling very well cared for. And that is what results in returning customers and people singing your praises to other folks so that you get more business, right? So I think that it lessens the strain internally as well, and folks really thrive. Businesses really thrive when they have a proven process that works. So.
Yeah. The way I say it, and this is the way I always told my team was, um, we're going to systematize this, we're going to standardize it so that we have more time to personalize it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then people got excited about it. They're like, "Oh, so I'll know that it's ready, and
Yes.
then I can spend extra time making it really special." I was like, "Bingo, that's what we want."
Yes.
And then I got the team to get really excited. So,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So you're my Lexington systems lady. You're the lady that can professionalize all the businesses here in Lexington. Is it just in Lexington, Kentucky, or how big is your all's reach?
Well, we do love to help businesses in Lexington because we love Lexington. We love the whole state of Kentucky, but we do serve clients all over the US. And so, any customer that is interested in either exploring what Monday.com can do for them and will reach out to us, or folks who are already using it and in most cases they'll say we're underutilizing it. We hear it all the time. Like, I
Oh
know
yeah.
it's robust and it can do so much more than how we're using it. We need you to look at what we're doing and help us. And oftentimes people will say, like, we kind of got stuck because we didn't know what else was possible. And that's okay. Monday.com does a great job with their customer support and they have a fantastic knowledge base and all of that. But people operating businesses are busy doing their business. They don't have time to go research and educate themselves about all the ins and outs of Monday.com. So that's why we became specialists in Monday.com, and we can hop in there, learn their business, and marry it with the information we know about Monday.com to really truly create a successful, customized operating system for the business. So that's
No,
one thing we
I
do. But we also have some ready-made solutions, as we refer to them, and that's for specific industries where we've already successfully built a solution for public school administrative offices. So they're
oh,
centralized.
there you go.
We have what we call EdOS. It's an education operating system for administrations. And then we're also have a system for manufacturers, small job shop manufacturers who have a disconnect between their front office communications and their production lines. And so have a solution for that as well. So, yeah.
No, it makes total sense. One of the things that I love about what you all do, can you, the words are not quite spilling in my head the way I want them to. Can you tell us the mission of Clarity Co? Because I think it's so succinct. Something about helping people find clarity. Here, can you hit it for me?
Yes, we help bring clarity to the business's technology systems in order to bring clarity to their work. So it is a really important mission that we're on, as I mentioned at the beginning of our time together, helping people feel successful in the work they're doing. I
Mm,
believe retains good talent in a
100%.
company. If they feel like they're leaving every day at the end of the day in a good place, they put in a good day's work and they weren't frustrated pulling their hair out all day long, they're probably going to stay longer, right? And when new people start into a position and they are confused, what am I supposed to be doing? What are my duties? Where am I supposed to put the information? It's not really a good look on employers. So having systems in place really organizes the business, both from a production standpoint, but also from being able to help retain good talent. So,
No, I love this. Everybody walks in work every day and they think to themselves, I'm going to do a good job today. Nobody wakes up and says, I'm going to watch the world burn. Everybody wants to do a good job and
yeah,
they wants to be praised for the good work and appreciated for the good work that they do.
yes.
And you can't do that if you, as the leader, don't have the clarity to put
Mhm.
the systems in place and then to use those systems all the time. I tell people all the time, your culture is being rewarded. So if you have this friction point in your team, nobody's using this. They're
Mhm.
using fragmented systems. These folks are emailing me the Word doc, and these people are putting it into the folder system.
Right.
All the reasons that when we try to implement a system, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's because you, as the boss, are rewarding that lack of adherence to the system. You're
Mhm.
letting people off the hook, and then that's why, and then the whole place falls apart, and that's
Yep.
why you have the chaos and the fires. I call it the skeleton room. Every about month 3 in my consulting cycle, I always ask the folks, "Where's the skeleton door?" Because there's a room where you keep all the skeletons, and you're just like, and I
Yes.
just have this image of like they're like 2 hands and 1 foot's up
Yeah.
on the door, trying to make sure nobody catches the skeleton.
I would say, at least what I've seen with my clients, is that one, maybe we call it a skeleton room, is the fact that if somebody got called to the table and asked to produce their business metrics and numbers, a
Hmm.
lot of folks would have a hard time pulling that information together quickly. They might spend a couple hours trying to dig information from spreadsheets and compile it and be able to put it into a report, but not enough companies have a dashboard displaying the key metrics that display the health of their business so that at any moment you can glance at it and see where things are headed. And when there's problems, you can use that information to make good decisions. And we just want to help businesses thrive. We want to help them, grow and scale, and to have that information readily available allows them to make good decisions. So,
Yeah, 100%. This is what separates the wannabe companies from the serious companies. And I can tell you, I've worked behind the doors of Fortune 100 companies. They don't have it all together. They're
mhm,
paying big checks, which the government or somebody else is subsidizing, but they're paying big checks and they don't really have this working. But to the degree that they do, That's the reason that they get the advantages that they have. And this is available now through technology,
Yeah.
through Monday.com to every business. So if
Yeah,
you have a
absolutely.
cleaning business, if you have a moving business, I mean,
Mhm.
you can have the same sort of flexibility and standardization that
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
big guys enjoy.
Absolutely.
We
Absolutely.
are
Yeah.
we are running out of time. I'm gonna give
Okay.
you 2 or 3 minutes here. You got the end of the show. I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Okay. Well, we want to help more folks, as I mentioned. And so, what we're offering is a strategy session to help folks who are curious about Monday.com have a sit down with us and discuss, like, what are some of the things that I could be using Monday.com for to run my business. And so we're offering a discount to folks who are having an interest in Monday.com or who are already using it and want to talk about how to get down to the, I guess I should that how to utilize it better. So Drew has a link that hopefully those folks who are interested in that can find that in the comments. But really, ultimately, what we want to do is help folks systematize and utilize technology more effectively with their business. And we've got a great team to be able to help you do that. So.
Yes. Yeah, Carrie is being modest here. The truth of the matter is, if you have a small business, if you have a medium-sized business, if you have an enterprise-sized business,
Yeah.
you're tired of the skeleton closet, you're tired of the firefighting, you're tired of folks showing up and wasting time in meetings, your inbox is completely full of garbage and chaos, and you don't know where you're at, you can't describe your metrics, if you haven't been able to take a vacation in 6 months without bringing your laptop with you,
Yes.
Carrie can solve it. She can solve it in less than 90 days. She can actually probably help you solve it in less than 90 minutes. So go to the link that's in the comments. Tell Carrie you saw her on the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. She's at clarityco.org, or you can find her on LinkedIn at linkedin.in/Carrie-Downey-clarityco/ just go to the comments. You'll find it there.
Just go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of folks on the show. I don't give everybody my raging personal endorsement, but I've seen Carrie in action, wrangling the cats, herding the cats down the prairie. She can take care of you, and she's gonna make sure that all that stuff that's been frustrating you, all those pain points, are nicely placed on a calendar that you can actually get your team to implement. Tell her you saw them on the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. With that, we are out.